Hey guys, how's it going? I'm Michael. I'm here to share with you what ego depletion is and how you can use this information to apply to your own life because this concept is really broad and it can affect actually a lot of parts of your life. Alright, so what is ego depletion? Ego depletion is essentially willpower, and it's an implicit theory, which means that if you believe in it, then it will affect you, and if you don't, it won't affect you. So this is similar to stress. There's research that shows that if you believe that stress will have negative effects on you, then it does. But if you believe that stress helps motivate you and helps you get things done, it helps with that as well, and you don't get the negative effects. So that's what an implicit theory is, and ego depletion is an implicit theory. So an implicit theory of ego depletion, and ego depletion meaning willpower, basically means that your willpower can get depleted if you believe that it can. And there's been many studies on this, and I'll go over a few of them and kind of the highlights of what they say. And then towards the end, I'm going to tell you why you should care and also talk about some of the debates that are going on in psychology about ego depletion right now. Alright, one of the articles I read was about Stigma as ego depletion and how being a target of prejudice affects self-control. So, what this article basically said was that if there's a prejudice against you, for example, your race, your gender, ethnicity, how you identify, whatever it may be, and you feel that there's prejudice against you, this will drain your ego, your willpower. So if being a target of prejudice will drain your willpower, this is something to keep in mind because, there's nothing you can do about this. Really, our society is changing and we are working on this as a society. But even just the microaggressions and stuff like that, if that's going to drain you, then it's something to be aware of. I'm also a pilot and I'm going into aviation, so I'm going to use that as an example to apply it to my life. Not directly, of course, but so say you're a female pilot, right? And there's this stigma that, most pilots are men and so they should be better pilots because they're better at math or whatever, right? Now, even if that's not true, right? And it's not true, that stigma can still affect you and make you perform worse. For example, again, back to aviation, say you have the female pilot or the ethnic pilot or whatever, if they have this stereotype where they feel like they're expected to be worse of a pilot because of something that's out of their control and people aren't taking in their expertise, they might take a riskier landing where, is it still possible? Yes. Is it still legal? Yes. But say they're just a little bit low on their altitude coming in for landing and they really should have done a go around, they made the landing fine, but it's that extra little bit of risk that they're taking. And this goes into my next topic of ego depletion increasing risk taking. So they tested this in a really funny way, if you ask me. It was proven to be valid, but they'd have participants watch a funny cartoon or a sad cartoon or whatever, right? And it's supposed to play on their emotions, and it's a cartoon that most people would laugh at or cry with, whatever. And the people who were made to, well, they were made to, not show any of these emotions, so they just had to sit there and watch the cartoon like this with absolutely no emotion, right? And this is hard, it's taxing to not laugh at a funny joke, So that's how they depleted their ego, and then they had them do a driving simulator, right? And when the people were driving after watching this video and not reacting to it, they took a lot more risks. And, they're little risks, but the risk that could cause an accident, and this applies to your own life because, say you're at work, say you're hanging out with friends, no matter what you're doing, if you're sitting there like suppressing yourself and using that mental ability in order to not react in a certain way, or you're on a diet and everyone was like, hey, let's go out and have pizza, and you ordered a salad instead of the pizza, it drains you, according to the ego depletion theory. This would mean that you just want to be a little bit more aware that, hey, so I've had a really hard day, I've been trying not to let all of these other factors affect me, and I've done a really good job at controlling my diet, my time, whatever it may be. And then when you're driving, where you're relaxed and you're not paying as much attention, it's just important to keep a little bit in mind that I can't really take silly risks right now just because I'm tired. Alright, right about now you might be asking yourself, well, that's great, good to know, but what am I supposed to do about that? Well, there was another study done that says self-affirmation and self-control affirm core values, and basically you can minimize your ego depletion by practicing having self-control and self-affirmation. And they stated that a lot of athletes do this. This is why they'll practice, and they'll have these other conditions that make it that even when they are tired and when they are hitting this plateau where their willpower is at, they can keep going consistently and not let it affect them simply through practice. Now, alright. Now this is a two-sided coin, because I also looked at ego depletion and its paradoxical effects on ethical decision making. And they started talking about how, yes, athletes do have practice controlling where their willpower is at, and they're pretty good at it overall. But you also have athletes who then cheat by taking steroids or whatever. And their question was, why do people try and find these shortcuts that aren't ethical? Well, that also comes into your ego depletion. Because you're already tired, it's more likely for you to make bad, unethical decisions. And this is really important to keep in mind, especially if you're someone who runs a company or manages people. They say one of the big implications from this is that you can't go and deplete your employees to the point where they feel like they're drowning, right? To where they feel like they can't keep going, their willpower's gone, like they're just getting through it as best as they can. And I mean, I'm sure we've all been in a situation similar to this at one point or another in our lives. So it comes down to managing how you want to use all of this information in one. Like, yes, there's a lot of ways to deplete your willpower, but you can also practice it and get better at it. And just being aware of it and thinking about it and thinking, where am I? How am I doing with this? And then stopping yourself from making these bad, unethical decisions, risky behaviors, etc. Now, this is a two-sided coin, because I also looked at ego depletion and its paradoxical effects on ethical decision making. And they started talking about how, yes, athletes do have practice controlling where their willpower is at, and they're pretty good at it overall. But you also have athletes who then cheat by taking steroids or whatever. And their question was, why do people try and find these shortcuts that aren't ethical? Well, that also comes into your ego depletion. Because you're already tired, it's more likely for you to make bad, unethical decisions. And this is really important to keep in mind, especially if you're someone who runs a company or manages people. They say one of the big implications from this is that you can't go and deplete your employees to the point where they feel like they're drowning, right? To where they feel like they can't keep going, their willpower's gone, like they're just getting through it as best as they can. And I mean, I'm sure we've all been in a situation similar to this at one point or another in our lives. So it comes down to managing how you want to use all of this information in one. Like, yes, there's a lot of ways to deplete your willpower, but you can also practice it and get better at it. And just being aware of it and thinking about it and thinking, where am I? How am I doing with this? And then stopping yourself from making these bad, unethical decisions, risky behaviors, etc. So I'm going to briefly go over some of the history and some of the debates about ego depletion in psychology, just so that this isn't like hidden off to the side for you guys if you look into it more. But there has been debate that the ego depletion effect doesn't even exist, and implicit theories are kind of they're a niche thing, and that's something to be aware of. So take this with a grain of salt, and if you're interested in the history of it and why there's a debate, let me know in the comments down below, and maybe I'll make another video more on that, but that's just a lot to get into for this general overview video. Alright, so in summary, what you want to do is monitor where your ego is at, how much it's been drained, and practice not letting it be as drained, and just being aware, like, am I making the right decisions? Am I taking risks? Am I causing other people's ego to deplete just because I don't trust them for whatever reason, or I don't think they're qualified, or whatever? And then also managing your employees or the people that you work with in not draining them too much. Now, all of these articles that I've kind of used to create this video go in way more depth than I've mentioned here, and I've actually written a literature review on them for future research of mine that links aviation and psychology, and we're going to be going over the ego depletion effect and basically all of the different topics that I've covered in this video, and putting them into one kind of study, which isn't really designed yet, but that's where I'm taking this in the future. And well, I hope that it's useful in your guys' lives and that you can actually apply this to your life and get something out of this video. Let me know down in the comments. Make sure to hit that like and subscribe.